So next up, we are chatting with Miriam, and Miriam is 56 years old and felt like her body was never good enough, like through the majority of her life. And that spiraled into her thinking that her life wasn't good enough and feeling like she had to get everything perfect and controlled. And if she did that, then she would finally be happy. And she felt tired and defeated from all that energy that she was expending on thinking about these things and criticizing herself. And she's come such a long way. And I'm really, really proud of what she's been able to accomplish. She was able to take a huge leap and do something that was a big dream of hers, which you will hear about. So this is Miriam's Spotlight.
Hi, Miriam. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Summer. Thanks for having me.
Thanks. It's so nice to see you. So before we kind of get into things, I'd love you to just tell our listeners just a little bit about who you are, what you do, where you live.
I live in a rural burb north of London, Ontario. I grew up in Halliburton and came to London to university, met the love of my life, and the rest is kind of history. We put down roots here and have lived here ever since.
And how many kids do you have?
I have 3 children. I have one who is doing her residency, I guess her medical residency. So right now it's quite an interesting time for her, and she's pretty nervous with the COVID that's coming through and what that might mean to her and her life and her preparedness. She's pretty, and then I have twins who are in their 4th year of university.
Yeah, cool.
So a little bit busy at times.
Yeah.
Not anymore, but
still busy. So why don't you tell everyone a little bit about what your frustrations were with your body or with your relationship with food before we started working together?
My frustration was that it just wasn't good enough, and my body wasn't good enough, and then that spiraled to that my life wasn't good enough. Things just weren't good enough. And it was imperfect enough.
Yeah.
And I felt that if I could just make it perfect, if I could just change the way I looked, lost that last 10 pounds, had my windows washed and my floor cleaned, if I could just do it, and the tighter I put the controls on in my life, the unhappier I became and the more tired I became.
Yeah. And how long was that going on for you?
I don't know when it started. It's not like all of a sudden you go, oh, today I'm going to become a mess. It likely just continued to creep, right? Like as something, it kind of started when I was 8, with a silly situation comment that wasn't silly to me, but when I look back, I go, okay, for the next person, it wouldn't have defined them. But for me, that became my defining moment. And then there's just, as life goes on, you interpret comments or you interpret gestures that reinforce that feeling, and it just continues to grow. Whereas, I think you look for, I don't know whether you look for it, but you see it. You see things, and you kind of make that part of the package. And so the package becomes bigger and bigger. And it was at some point in your life, and so maybe for some people it doesn't, but for me, it was when my kids left, like all 3 of them left in the same year for university, moving out, and my daughter getting married. And that all of a sudden I was really lost.
Yeah.
And I was really tired and became unhappy. And, the doctor was like, I was physically not feeling well, went for medical testing. There was some things that were weird, but then they really, really didn't lead to anything. And then his answer was, I think you're depressed. And that got me pissed off.
Mm-hmm.
I am not pressed. I won't fall into that. And I was like, okay, you gotta find a solution. You have to do something because you don't want to live your life this way any longer. I didn't know what I was going to find. I actually was looking for the answer again in, okay, I'll just look for another diet.
Yes.
Look for another program. I'll look for something that's going to give me the perfect answer, because there's going to be an answer. There's got to be an answer out there that's going to click for me.
Mm-hmm.
And because you keep trying and failing and trying and giving up and starting again, and so that was kind of my impetus. Like for January 1st, I was going to find another kick-ass nutritional program.
Yeah. Yeah. And so what prompted you to kind of like make the change and start to work on just accepting your body as it is?
Well, I did join a nutritional program, and within that structure, it was also about within their recipe of losing weight and photos and all of that stuff. It was also about finding out who you were, learning to love yourself. What's your mission statement? What are your whys in your life? What makes you happy? What makes you sad? How do you dial more into the things that make you happy? How do you say no to the things that don't fulfill you? And I was 56. I'd never answered those questions in my life. I just kind of went through life, like maybe on a certain level you do, because you tend to gravitate to what makes you happy and you tend to leave what doesn't make you happy. But to really think about it, when somebody asked me what my mission statement was, I was like, shit, I don't know. I don't know what my mission in my life is. Like, raise my children, I guess. I don't know. Now they're gone. Is that why I'm sad? Right? Like, so it was quite an eye opener to start peeling the layers back. And then some of the layers I peel back and I didn't like, I kind of put the layer back up because it was like, oh God, I don't know how to deal with that Pandora's box. Because I knew there was a Pandora's box there, but I didn't know what was inside the box. And then that led me to you, because I was talking with my coach about my body image issues, and she suggested to follow you in your blogs, which I did, and I followed you for a year, like a little bit for a year, and then I joined this year.
Yeah. And I'm so glad you found me.
I am too.
So in terms of like moving forward, what were some of the things that you felt really helped you along the way?
The structure of your program, for me, was so good, because I would look at the first question, how you had this, almost like an essay. You'd have this generalized, introduction statement about what we were going to be doing in this module. And I kind of go, oh, I don't know if that really relates to me. Oh yeah, maybe, but I'm not quite sure what she's asking. But a lot of it was, I think, a little bit of denial. Is like, oh, I'm not sure if that really relates to me. And then the questions just kept like dialing down. And, I really took the time to write my answers out. And by the time I got to the last question, which I don't know, usually had 10 or 15, something like that, I'd have this major epiphany and kind of go, oh my goodness, like that's about. Oh, well, now I have clear insight as to why I do some of the things I do, or in good and bad. And so I would say that was really great for me. And the other was that I felt it was a very contained and safe environment. And I could I could be brutally honest with myself. And other people were brutally honest. And I was like, wow, they got some big warts. And I got some big warts. That's okay.
Yeah.
Right. And I can verbalize my warts and not pretend they're not there. And that was really helpful because I've lied to myself. I realized how much I lied to myself over my life, and I wasn't honest.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
No, I was just going to say, I'm really curious to know, because you mentioned kind of like drilling down. Was there any, like, is there an example that you could share that you can think of that might give it a little bit more context?
I should have read one of the modules through. I didn't.
I'm trying to think of something too.
I guess one of them was the doppelganger. I was like, oh, who's that? What is that? Like, what's that all about? And I kind of went, I don't know. Do I have somebody on my shoulder kind of talking to me? Like, I don't know. I know I have this voice in my head every once in a while that seems to, talk back to me. And it was just kind of, I guess the question was, do you have a doppelganger? Well, I don't know, right? And then it was, well, who do you, close your eyes and visualize? Like, like when you have that voice speaking to you, what could you visualize it as? Well, okay, mine became a snake, okay, well, now what does your snake do? And it was just answering all of those questions and then realizing that the doppelganger was not there to be Satan in my head, but it was there to be, sorry, I guess I shouldn't use the religious connotation, but it was there to protect me from what I had been hurt from in the past. Mm-hmm. And it was working through all those questions then to see that connection to the lonely girl was the doppelganger, and the doppelganger is saying mean things to me because it's trying to protect me from putting myself out there so I can't be hurt again. And to understand that cycle and that you then can start breaking it. So that's where I kind of dialed down. I can't think of all the questions that were asked.
Yeah, no, you don't need to. No, I'm curious to know even from that, like, and for people that are listening and are like, what is she talking about in terms of a doppelganger? It's really just like our inner critic, the negative voice in our head. What was the impact of having that knowledge on your life and what you were able to then do after having that information?
Well, for me, knowledge is power. Power is not the insight power. So, like I always knew there was, for me, I guess I always knew that there was a reason why, and I wanted to know what the reason why I behaved the way I did.
Yeah,
did the destructive things, because I didn't think it was just willpower. Right. So I went down the path of, well, maybe it's if I have B12, I won't do it. Or maybe if I diet, or maybe if I lose 10 pounds or, whatever. I thought that would give me my answer.
Right.
To those whys and that insight. So that connection of this doppelganger, this inner critic, and really understanding that it really is like a force in my life. And to recognize it and to understand why it's there took away that feeling that my life was out of control because it was under the control of some other force that I didn't know.
Yeah, wow. Super powerful.
Now, I don't feel that anymore. I feel like I have my own ability to steer my own boat. Yes, I'm not perfect. There's still so many things to learn. And as we discussed last night on our last, follow-up call, it'll always be there. Mm-hmm. It's just learning how to interact with it. And to interact with your inner critic will be whether you're going to be a victim of it or whether it's going to be just somebody that's in your life.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. No, super powerful. And like to have that impact, kind of how you show up. And I know like in our conversations together, what I noticed was how you were able to then, you know, stop taking the direction of it and to, you know, take action from a place of like what you truly want, and and really showing up as like who you are versus, you know, sort of conforming to the direction of that voice inside of you. That's what I noticed.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say so.
So what are some of the specific things that you feel about yourself now since doing this work together?
I'm much happier, but I was happy before too. So I wouldn't say I had an unhappy life.
Yeah.
But now I feel much more complete. I feel like I'm in control of my life. I think I don't understand how my friends and my family don't say, "Wow, what happened to you?" Because I think I look completely different. That they would say, "Wow, you're just such a different person." But I guess, you know, it's an internal thing, and it doesn't show completely on the outside, but there's less baggage, you know, like I make decisions now because that's something that I would like to do, not in a selfish way, not like, well, I want to go, you know, to Bali. It's not that kind of, I want to, but it's like, no, you know what? Like for an example, one of my things was I love to be connected to people. And that was one of the things that I worked through, and I discovered it with myself with you. And belonging and being connected to people is very, very important to me. And I would always like, you know, say, "Oh, Summer, do you want to go for coffee?" And Summer would say, "Oh, yes, of course I do." But then Summer wouldn't ask me back. Mm-hmm. And then I would be like, "Oh, well, what's the use? Why do I have to keep asking?" Right? And I would spin it in such a negative way.
Yes.
And now I'm like, I'll just ask Summer again. Because I don't care whether Summer asks me back, because I'm doing it because I want to connect with her. And if she says yes, then she obviously wants to connect with me. But if she doesn't ask me, that's okay. She might be too busy. It might not be important to her to ask. She's a different person, and maybe her need for connection is totally different than mine. And mine, I know, is very large. Mm-hmm. So I'm okay with that now. So it takes away that whole spin of all the negative crap that was in my life. And it makes you so tired, right? Like it's comparing yourself to others and finding yourself needing something, whatever that need is, because you're never good enough. There's always somebody that's got a better purse or a pair of shoes or a cleaner house or better hair or nicer eyebrows, or it never, ever ends, right? And when you're in that cycle, it just sucks the life right out of you. And so the biggest changes is that I have room in my life for so many other things.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. That gives me goosebumps hearing you say that.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. And so what were some of the highlights for you, or what are some of those other things that like you've been able to make space for?
Well, my biggest thing is my art. So I always wanted to, I was always creative. I built a house, I've designed, I've done things. I've always wanted to be an artist. I've always wanted to paint and never had the confidence to do it, didn't know where to start. And so in my journey, kind of finding myself, I had a challenge a couple of years ago to do something. What's the biggest desire that you would want to do and that you're afraid to do it? And it was painting. So I went like, okay, put the phone down, found a painting lesson in London and went to it. And, but I want to go to the next level. I want to call myself an artist. I want to take it seriously. I want it to be part of my life. It's very it's a passion that fuels me. And so I think that's where I have the biggest opening of my life, is to be able to start exploring my creativity. Because if you don't have confidence, if you don't have that open space in yourself, you can't create art if you're a critic of who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Then you judge every brush stroke you put down and every color. And it'll look like you've been thinking along the way. It looks like you've been judging yourself because it becomes this stiff black box in the middle of a white page, so to speak. And so, yeah, that would be my biggest thing of where my life has gone.
And you signed up for a course like that. You
yes.
probably
yes.
like that was a big, move for you. That you
very much.
I don't know. You can tell me like whether or not you would have done that before, or if that was something that like you feel this gave you like the real kind of courage to sign up for that course.
Yeah. So I signed up for Art to Life, which is a very, it's a phenomenal program that just has so many fundamental beliefs to it, even though it's an art course that's so similar to yours, like about just that whole growth of, accepting where you are on your path, right? Your path, where you are right now in your path is where you're meant to be. Don't envy people that are ahead of you, and don't pity the people who are behind you, right? Like you can help the people behind you, and the people ahead of you will help you, and so I wouldn't have signed up for this. It's a big investment, and it's a big investment in time. So it was me being able to be in the place to say, no, this is important to me and my family. This 12 weeks, this is what I'm doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm taking myself serious, and you have to too, because this is what I'm doing. And so I had that mental place to be able to make that decision. And also, I think what really kind of gave me that spark and the vision that I knew I could do it was when we did that visualization. And we visualized meeting our future self and saying hello and talking to them. And who I met, I absolutely loved.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's me. That's who I am going to be. And I was like, okay, yeah, she's a kick-ass artist. I am going to be a kick-ass artist. Like, that's me. And so it just gave me, like, I just lost doubt that this program was not for me. At times I still have pretty big hiccups, because some of the artists that are in this group, they've been coming back for 4 or 5 years, and they are international artists. Like, they're incredible. They're incredible. They're just incredibly talented or successful, because I think everybody can learn to be creative. So I don't want to see talented in the sense that you're born with it or not born with it. I don't believe that at all. I think people just have a passion, and when you follow your passion, you just become really good at what you do when you follow your passion. But anyways, I'm definitely on a different place in the path than these other individuals are. And it is a little bit, I have to swallow sometimes posting my work, knowing that it's up beside, somebody else's. And, but that's okay. You know what? Like, this is where I am today, and tomorrow will be on a different place in the path. And 5 years from now, I'll be on a different place in the path. And so I'm just going to learn what I can today with what I have.
And that's what I really admire about you, is that takes a lot of bravery and courage, because, what I remember is when we first started this together, like you didn't even want to paint sometimes because your inner critic was so loud, and you were like, just afraid of people judging you or it not being good enough. And so to see you come to this place where, you're in this course, you're sharing your work like with all these other people and, you know, people who have more experience and things like that. Like, I think it's so cool. And I love the way that, you know, you coming into this program has kind of evolved into it. Like you now having this, like, you know, well, you already had the passion, but you being able to really express it and invest your time in it and like connect with it from a real purposeful place and share that with others. And so, it just shows that it's so much more than just the body, you know, cause if people are listening to this and it's like, you know, like, yes, you on Fire is really kind of a body image program, but ultimately like, it's so much bigger than that. And that's, you're just an example of how that can play out in someone's life. And I'm just really admire what you've been able to do with that and how you've been able to take action from everything that you've learned. Yeah.
Yeah. Because in the end, it isn't about your body. It is. That's what society leads you to. It's an easy thing, right? It's an easy thing for our critic or inner critic to make you fixate on because it's around us everywhere. So it's the easiest thing to use to punish yourself in a way.
Yes.
So but in the end, it's not about your body. And I guess that's the biggest epiphany I had is it's just not about my body.
Yeah. So how does all of this?
I love it.
Yes.
Love it. That actually was one of the biggest things for me is that I always was like, well, you gotta love it. You gotta love yourself. And you were like, no, why do you have to love it? Why do you have to say you love everything about yourself? You know, I don't love everything about my husband. He doesn't love everything about me. So why do I have to love everything about my body? I don't.
Yes.
As soon as I kind of went, oh, so I can say I hate my fluffy middle? Perfect. And I still don't like it, but I don't need to change.
Yeah.
That's where the difference is. So I always felt I had to change it to love it. And now I don't have to love it. I can just say, oh, yeah, it looks pretty shitty today, but whatever. Right? Like,
and go on with your day and still do stuff and not let it eat away at you and change your decisions and anything else like that. Yeah.
So it's just, in the end, it's not about my body. It's about who I am.
Yeah. Brilliant. So how does all that feel then to be where you are now and to not have that dictating everything?
Yeah. I hate to say empowering because that just to me is such a trite term in some ways because it's always used, right? I'm so empowered, right? I guess it's I feel like I'm on fire. I feel this anticipation of what's around the corner. What possibilities are out there now for me because I spent so much time and you don't realize how much time you spend and how much mental energy you spend, counting your calories and wondering if it's, are carrots okay? Because they have sugar. So then do I eat an apple? Because that has sugar, right? What really palm size? What's a palm size of chicken? Is that before you cook it or after you cook it, right? So then you're on the internet for 3 days about whether the palm size is pre-cooked or post-cooked, and it's so ridiculous, right? Like you do. Well, I did anyway.
I hear you. Yes, I had an Excel spreadsheet. I get it.
You're counting so much of your time and energy is just spent on that. And I was tired, so I'm not tired anymore. Now I'm energized. I'm on fire. So I remember our first call, you said, you look so defeated. You look so tired. And I'm like, yeah, because if this isn't going to get me to the next point in my life, I don't know what is, because I'm tired of it all, right? I am pretty defeated about it. So
yeah. I don't remember telling you that. I feel like, oh, did I really say that? But I suppose I am honest. I mean, I see what I see. So yeah, no.
I can see it. You said that. It's like, I can see that. Like I looked like, on
yes,
the call.
yes.
It's,
Yeah. And then, you know, I recall, like, you know, the last time we talked, not the last time we talked, but the time before that, when you were like, I feel like Freddie Mercury. Like, I feel so free. And so, yeah, big change. And that's amazing that we are where we are now. And I'm super proud of you. So that's amazing.
Thanks. Yeah. I'm super happy.
Good.
So.
Good. Is there any a piece of advice that you want to give to people listening before we wrap up?
I would say, I wish I had the wisdom or the vision when I was younger to start following this, to want to end it, to realizing that your body is not the answer. You think it is, and you're so focused on that. I just hope that somebody hearing me would say, okay, maybe she's right. Maybe there's another answer that I can find to find happiness and to get out of this cycle. Because even when I first started, you know, with you, sometimes I was like, oh, that's bullshit. That doesn't have anything to do with me. You know, like I'd be like, and then it's like, no, she's right. Like, really, it is right. Like, yeah, it isn't about the body, and you got to get over that, right? I thought I could kind of have all of it, right? I could still myself tiny. I could still do this. I could still do that because somebody didn't know what she was talking about. Like, you know, and so I just hope somebody realizes that, you know what, your eulogy, you don't want somebody to say, man, she knew how to diet and have clean windows.
Mm-hmm.
That's a sad eulogy, right? Like, you want to be known for something else, and you don't want to be wasting so much of our precious time in life worrying about whether you got, you know, leopard skin shoes and a tight pair of jeans, right? Like, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Just doesn't matter anymore.
So good. So well said. So well said. Well, thank you so much for that. Is there anything you want to add before we wrap it up?
No, I just you've got a great program, and I super appreciate everything that you've done for me. And, you know, you have such a great way of using words to give me a bit of an answer, but then make me look and answer it myself. And then when I get a little bit down, you kind of just have the right way of, or if I get stuck, of just rewording something, and then I kind of go, oh, okay, there's another way of looking at that, you know, and just twisting that thought pattern just a little bit, that you can get yourself out of that hole and get back to moving forward. So I do super appreciate it.
Oh, thank you. That's such a nice compliment. I really appreciate that. Well, it's been such a pleasure. I've loved seeing how far you've gotten in our short time together. And I can't wait to see where you are a year from now, and just, you know, what you're up to and what you're doing. And you're truly an inspiration for, like, you know, especially people who are kind of feeling like, okay, like, I've been doing this for so long, and like, what is the point? And and that it's never too late to kind of do this work. Not that you're like old or anything like that, but just, you know, that it's, you know, it's
late. Even if you're 70, you're never too late, right? Even if you're 80, you're never too late. If you're still alive, it's never too late.
100%.
Because you still have life ahead of you. Yeah. And why waste what you have?
Yeah. Nice.
On empty sadness. So
yeah, and I just have so much respect for you and for trusting me with this process. So thank you.
Thanks, Summer.
Thanks. Rock on.
Okay, I'm so proud of Miriam. It's really, really cool to see how far she's gotten. And I know she made that comment about like me saying she looked tired, and how she just feels so much more energized now. And it's really amazing to kind of hear the difference in people's voices and see that in their demeanor once they've done this work. And so I hope that you feel inspired and that this is possible for you, that it is possible for you to go from fretting about your body to just not really thinking about it that much anymore, not having it consume your life, and to start to see you for who you are and really, really experience life to its fullest. So if you want to learn more, then go to summerinnanen.com/you1fire. You can also find the video version of these spotlights and a link to watch the entire spotlight series that has, I think, over 20 interviews from people who've done this program with me over the years at summerinnanen.com/164. I've been running this program for almost 5 years, and I am always blown away by the transformations that take place. And it's just so much more than liking the way you look. I mean, it's not even about that, as you heard a lot of them say, like sometimes they don't like the way they look. It's about not caring about the way that they look. And it's about really knowing their value is in who they are and not how they look, and freeing up that mental space so that they can just be and be more present and enjoy life. So if you're curious to do that with me, take that leap. Let's do this. Now is the time. Think about how far you could be in 3 months from now. Why wait any longer? This is your time. Let's do this. Okay. Thank you so much for listening today. Rock on.